What if you can upgrade the visual aspects of your video game console, whether it be retro or modern, without needing to buy a new console? It's called the mClassic by Mareille or Mareille. My French is not super great, but we're gonna go with Mareille. Now, if you haven't heard of this thing, let's read the pitch real quick, shall we? Mareille's 4K pixel processor and advanced patented algorithms analyze every pixel in real time to produce a sharp, beautifully balanced picture with enhanced details and color clarity, exactly as the game developer intended, with zero lag. And it's showing 4 points on this image of, this looks to be Dreamlight Valley, I think, but it's showing depth of field, image sharpening, anti-lacing, and upscaling. It says right here on the sides, Nintendo Switch, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, PlayStation, and more, okay? Now, Mareille, God, I really hope I'm pronouncing that right, has introduced a new collection called the RGB collection. They've added 2 more products to this lineup, the mClassic Retro and the mClassic Switch. And they are exactly what they sound like. The mClassic Retro is the retro edition for GameCube, Super Nintendo, PlayStation, Sega Genesis, Sega Dreamcast, and more. And just like the back of the mClassic, this is promising image sharpening, anti-lacing, upscaling, depth of field. All right, and let's read the little pitch sheet here. mClassic Retro transports you back in time, letting you relive the joys and emotions of yesterday seamlessly, blending your favorite memories with today's world. Enjoy the nostalgia on a big screen with zero lag and a flawless gaming experience. Now here's compatibility actually right here. Nintendo GameCube, Super Nintendo, Nintendo Wii U, Microsoft Xbox 360, Microsoft Xbox, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, Sega Dreamcast, and Sega Genesis Retro. We're considering the Xbox 360 Retro, but I see what they're going for here. This one is for a wide palette of video games, and it looks like this one is specifically for the Switch. Play games like a pro on any TV screen. And it has the same aspects here. We have image sharpening, depth of field, upscaling, and anti-aliasing. And then compatibility, Nintendo Switch. So what they've done is they've taken the original mClassic a step further. Now, I don't know if you remember or how long you've been following the channel, but I did produce a short video about, gosh, it was probably a year, maybe even over a year ago, where I ran into an original mClassic at a retro game store and picked one up. And I did a side-by-side comparison, and actually, to my surprise, I was able to notice quite a bit of difference. And it wasn't until recently when Mareille, again, God, I hope I'm saying that name right, reached out to me via email and asked if I was interested in checking out this new RGB collection. And of course, when it comes to retro gaming and this sort of stuff, I am always interested in this sort of technology. So I scheduled a Google meeting with the man himself, the man behind this product, who invented this product. I had about an hour-long video conversation with him, and he explained this stuff to me in detail, and I have to be honest, as far as tech goes, it's sort of like, I understand what this does, but being able to explain exactly what it's doing, it's a very difficult thing. It's almost like the chromatic. You can say that there's a new Game Boy Color, and you can say that it's the best Game Boy Color, but until somebody actually sits down and plays it and sees that screen and feels that just pure it factor that it has, it's very hard to convey just in a video or in dialogue. So after a long, extensive conversation with the creator of this product, I understand what it's meant to do. And the best way to describe it is sort of like it is an inline video processor. And now that they've had a successful launch over the last couple of years with the mClassic, they're rewriting the algorithms, so to speak, and expanding the line to one that is dedicated to retro and one that is dedicated to the Nintendo Switch. So what we're gonna do is, I've already made a video on the mClassic. So we're gonna set the mClassic aside and we're going to look at the mClassic Retro and the mClassic Switch in this video, because these are part of the new RGB collection, which is currently available on Indiegogo. Now, if you wanna know real quick, the original mClassic, it did retail for $100, $99.99. And again, I picked mine up by happenstance at a retro game store here locally. I saw it under the counter and I was like, what is this? Pixel perfect gameplay. And they explained it to me, and the person working at the game store was really hyped on it and sold me on it. So I bought it and brought it home, and it's been plugged into my TV ever since. Again, hard to explain. It seems like it's easy to write off as like, oh, it's an upscaler, right? It's just something that upscales your image. But that's not what's happening, which is why it's $100, because there's actually a processor inside of these things. I could sit here and fumble around with words all day long trying to explain this and trying to wrap my head around it, but I think the best thing we could do is just plug these things in and give it a real test. So let's test out the mClassic Switch Edition first. First thing we're gonna do though is we're gonna unbox it, because man, do I love unboxing stuff. All right, so there it is. There's the mClassic. It actually looks exactly like the original mClassic. Okay, so basically what you have here is you just have an inline HDMI video processor. On this side is gonna be the source. So this is what plugs into your Nintendo Switch dock. And on this side, it goes out to the TV. Now, the one thing I will say is, maybe it comes with it? It does come with it, okay. So it does require its own power source, which it is a video processor, so that doesn't surprise me, but it does come with its own power cable. And I'm sure you're wondering, how the hell do you plug that into your Nintendo Switch? Well, luckily, it comes with a little HDMI extender. So we'll just plug that thing into there, like that. And then this plugs into our Switch. So let's grab this Switch dock and we'll plug this in first. This just plugs into your HDMI port on your Switch dock. This just plugs into that, and then it plugs into your TV. And everything else plugs in exactly the same. Okay, so we got a quick start guide here. All right, so this mClassic, the Switch version, has a little dongle or a little toggle switch on the side with 3 modes. And those 3 modes are Switch OG, which I assume is no processing at all, processing off. And then the middle section is Switch Enhance. And then all the way down is Switch Enhance Plus. Not really sure what the difference is between Switch Enhance or Enhance Plus. But we're gonna plug it in and we're gonna find out. And then after that, we're gonna plug in the retro one and see exactly what that thing does. All right, so now that we got the monitor set up, I got the Switch and Switch dock all ready to go. I thought it would be interesting to point this out. I have the HDMI extender here, but the cool thing is, on a Nintendo Switch and on just about any of the other more modern consoles, the console, or in this case the dock itself, has a USB port. So the power that is needed by the mClassic should be able to be powered by the USB port on the side of the Switch dock, which is pretty cool. That way you don't have to, run a bunch of other cables. So yeah, for the sake of the video, I took the back panel of the Switch dock off, but we're gonna go ahead and plug this guy into there, and then we got our HDMI cable that we are just going to plug on into this. So all the way back is off, okay? And it looks like everything's hooked up fine. Everything's good. I'm really curious about this thing. So we're gonna try it out. For the sake of this video, we're gonna use my Nixie Wizard. I love this controller. It's like basically a Wavebird, basically. I mean, we might as well boot up a Switch game, right? So we're gonna do Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Very curious about this. Very, very curious. All right, so here we are. We are playing Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom on my Nintendo Switch, and we're playing it on my LG curved 4K display. It is pass-through mode right now. There is no processing on at all. And now on the right-hand side of the screen, you're gonna see what it looks like when I turn on just the standard enhanced mode. That's a pretty drastic difference, just in contrast. Wow, that's a drastic difference. That's regular enhanced. Now, there's one more setting that is like enhanced plus. There's standard, there's enhanced, and we're gonna switch it into enhanced plus. Okay, there's regular, enhanced plus. If I'm reading that correctly, I think that's how this goes. Unfortunately, this is a pre-production version of the mClassic Switch, and so the booklet that it came with is actually for the original mClassic. So I'm not really sure which modes I have it on, to be honest with you. But let's go ahead and look at all three modes together. So now, as you can see, that's actually all three different modes. And I gotta tell you, there's like a drastic difference between all three of them. Unfortunately, because the manual that this pre-production one came with doesn't tell me which switch is which. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and put it into this enhanced plus mode, which is what I'm assuming this is here. And I'm just gonna play around a little bit. I mean, that's a drastic difference in my opinion, just from sitting in front of the screen, looking at it. It's made quite a bit of difference. Let's take a look just at the world around. Boy, this setting here really bumps up the clarity. I mean, look at that. I don't know that I've ever seen a Switch game with this level of clarity before. Huh. It's interesting. Okay, so there you have it. There's the demonstration on the mClassic Switch mode. You know, I actually thought that having to run power from the mClassic was going to be cumbersome, but I gotta say, given the fact that the Switch dock actually has USB ports on the side, it's actually not too cumbersome at all. The other thing is, because this is pre-production mClassic, I'm not sure which one of these switch positions is for enhanced and enhanced plus. I could tell obviously which the upper position is off, which is how it is on the mClassic, the original mClassic. If I had to guess though, I think that the middle portion may be enhanced plus and all the way down is enhanced. I'm not really sure why they would offer two different enhanced versions. Like if you have enhanced and an enhanced plus, why not just have the enhanced plus? Like, you know, why have like a decent meal when you can have a really good meal? So having three positions is a little bit confusing to me, but I have to ask these questions to the good folks over at Mareille and find out exactly why that's there. But the one thing I can confidently say is there is definitely an image quality difference, not just in the colors, but in the overall clarity of the picture of the game. Now, I will say, if I did have my choice to play my Nintendo Switch docked with an mClassic or without an mClassic, it's a pretty easy choice. The mClassic certainly looks better, and not just a little bit better. I don't know how well it's gonna come across in the video, but it looks quite a bit better. So I will be plugging this into the TV upstairs that has the docked Switch plugged into it as well, because I already have one in my retro room next door. Although I will say, caveat, I almost never play my Nintendo Switch docked. I play it in handheld mode because I'm a handheld gamer. That's sort of what I do. But my kids play on the TV all the time, and I can assure you that they will notice a difference when I switch those things back and forth. In fact, that might make for a fun video. Stay tuned for that video. The other one that I want to hook up real quick and take a look at is this. This is the mClassic Retro. We'll unbox this too. I would imagine it's probably gonna have the same instruction set, which means I'm not sure which one of these is Enhance and Enhance Plus. Yeah, the user guide that's in here is actually the user guide for the original mClassic. And on the original mClassic, it was processing off, processing on, and retro mode, which actually might be the same for this one since this is the retro one. But as you can see, we basically have the same thing, just in green. Which is why there's the RGB. Ah, now I get it. Red, green, and the blue one for the Switch. So we're gonna put the Switch dock away. So for this one, because it's one of my favorite consoles of all time, we're gonna use a GameCube. All right, so with this test, we are going to use one of my favorite retro consoles of all time. It's still hard for me to call the GameCube retro, but I suppose it is at this point. But we're gonna use my original GameCube. This is my original launch GameCube. This is my Resident Evil 4 edition. I put a skin on it some years ago, and yes, it has a Game Boy player attached to the bottom of it. And for the sake of this video, we are, of course, going to try Metroid Prime. As you can see, back in the day, the MVP price for this game, which also comes with Metroid Prime Echoes, was only $4.50. What kind of monster sells this game for $4.50? But that was back when they were like a dime a dozen. So here's the one thing that you need to know about the mClassic if you're using it with a retro console. It's HDMI. So it does say right on the back of the box that it requires a third-party HDMI adapter. One thing that I sort of wish mClassic would do is offer their own HDMI adapter, or at least give suggestions on which HDMI adapter to buy. I feel like that's going to be an interesting barrier of entry for anyone who wants to play a retro game or retro consoles with this thing. Is a lot of people aren't going to understand that. They're going to be like, oh man, up-res my original games. Oh, the Dreamcast and the Super Nintendo and the PlayStation, none of those had HDMI. So what you need to do is you need to go buy one of these. They're actually pretty cheap. You can get them on Amazon. I have the one that I use in the description below. It is made by Level Hike. I don't have any affiliation with Level Hike, but I have used other brands specifically for the GameCube that, because these require power also, have fried my GameCube power board. I had to replace, in my orange GameCube, I had to replace the power board, I guess I should say. Dr. Mod had to replace the power board because it actually shot power back through this right into the power board of the GameCube. So I will say, mClassic, that's something that I would be cautious of. Maybe let us know or post on the box or whatever which one of these you would recommend. I prefer the level hike. Again, I have a link to the Amazon page down below. They're pretty cheap. Level hike. The other one that I used fried the power board on my GameCube. So if you don't want a dead GameCube, I would consider doing a little bit of research on these. Maybe I'll make a video on that in the future. So what that means is, not only do you need an HDMI adapter that requires power, but now the mClassic requires its own power source as well, because it is a video processor. And unlike the Nintendo Switch, the GameCube doesn't have USB ports on it, which means you're gonna have to plug these in somewhere. Which means you're gonna need like a little USB dongle like this, or you can do the solution that I opt with, and that is I use the Anker USB multi-taps. You just plug one thing in and it gives you multiple USB ports. It even gives you a USB-C, or the newer ones give you a couple USB-C ports. So let's hook this big old thing up and put it to the test. So we have our power brick for the GameCube itself. I was just thinking, I actually haven't booted up this GameCube in quite a while. Here's to open it still boots up. Let's get our HDMI cable going to the monitor. So in this case, I'm not gonna bother with this dongle. I'm just gonna plug the mClassic right into the back of this HDMI adapter for the GameCube. This goes right into the back. I will say, this is a bit cumbersome, but that's okay. Maybe it makes up for it. So there we go. We have our power coming out of the mClassic, and we're gonna need power coming out of the HDMI adapter. This is kind of funny, actually. The one thing I will suggest to Mareille is maybe put USB-C on here, if that's a possibility sometime in the future. This USB micro and mini, not great jacks. They have a tendency to sort of break over time. All right, here we go. We're gonna pop in Metroid Prime. Okay, so everything's booting up good. I have to sync the controller up. Okay, so one thing that I did want to mention is level hike on the HDMI converter for the GameCube is going to give you the option of a toggle switch on here. It's going to give you 3x4 and it's going to give you 16:9. So you're going to be able to toggle back and forth between 3x4 and 16:9. I'm running it in 16:9 on this monitor. But let's swing the camera around and check out what Metroid Prime looks like on this thing. Right now, I have processing off. All right, so here we are. We have Metroid Prime loaded up. Now, as you can see on this little handheld camera here, there is no processing happening currently out of the mClassic at the moment. But I will say, with the HDMI adapter just like this, it looks pretty good. I'm not too upset at how this image is currently looking. It's not terrible. So here on the menu, let's go ahead and just select the next level of processing and see what it looks like. Whoa, not really sure what it did there. It took some of the colors out, right? I can definitely see the black line of where the TV stops. Well, let's take a look at both of these side by side. That's nothing on. There's the first tier processing on. Now let's get into a game real quick. Okay, So while we're watching this cutscene here, let's switch between the different modes and see what happens. Yeah, I'm not really sure what this is like emulating a CRT or something. This is no enhancements. This is enhanced, and that is enhanced plus. All right, so here we go. This is the opening sequence of Metroid Prime. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna switch and toggle between the settings. So there you go, there's all 3 slices together in one screen, so you can compare them all. All right, so there you go, there's the GameCube hooked up to the mClassic Retro, which is the G side of the RBG. So what do you think? Do you think there's a difference in using an mClassic versus no mClassic at all? I can say the mClassic Switch definitely crisping things up, and it takes away a lot of the contrast. It adjusts the contrast, which to me makes it look quite a bit better. As far as the Retro definitely gives it more of a CRT look. But again, I have to say that running the GameCube with an HDMI adapter like this one from Level Hike makes the GameCube look pretty good on a screen like this. Does the mClassic help? You tell me. You be the judge. Hit the comments and let me know what you think. I am personally still sort of wrapping my head around the technology of what's going on here in the mClassic. I plan on doing many more tests with these things, and if you have any questions, or maybe you've used one yourself and you want to add to it, hit the comments and let me know. So if you want to see me test the RGB mClassic collection a little bit more, don't forget to follow along, because I'm very curious. And until then, enjoy the journey.